And then I kind of scrape it along the bottom like that to try and even out the bottom. And then let's see how she did. Yay!
Very nice.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Marty.
And I'm Natalie, and today we're going to be planting our seedlings. So I'm really unorganized, and I always forget to write down how many seedlings I planted last year. And so right now I'm just kind of guessing, going through all of my seed packets and arbitrarily deciding how many plants I want to plant. But that's fine, because I'll just give the extras away.
So we're about 8 weeks away from our frost date, so it's the perfect timing to start our seedlings. And last year, Nat introduced us, or Nat discovered a waste-free way of making seedlings, which are the soil blocks. And they were actually pretty successful last year.
They turned out really lovely.
They turned out really lovely. We didn't use any plastic as the containers, and it was absolutely amazing.
For the recipe that we use for the soil blocks, I've seen so many online, and I'm sure that a lot of them work great. It seems like the most important part of the recipe is actually the consistency of the mix that you make. So I use this 5-gallon pail and fill it to here about twice with like an organic pro mix. I'll fill the bucket once with some perlite, and then I fill it twice again with a compost, but just a little bit lower. And then a couple of cups from a Gaia Green.
So it's not very scientific. You do your best, essentially. Good?
And I just realized we just did so much.
So once you've put all the dry ingredients together, we just put it in the wheelbarrow here, and we do kind of all of the mixing here. As we're mixing all of this, like sometimes you'll find like twigs and stuff like that, so we do like get the big pieces out. And then the mixing with the water is really what seems to be key from last year, to be able to have some really nice soil blocks that'll hold on together and actually holds its shape. It's really about the mixture of like how much water, and it's hard to explain what's the exact good consistency. Yeah. What we'd realize is that if you can squeeze it and a ton of water comes out, it's too much.
A little bit.
You want a little bit, like this is still a little dry. As you can see, it kind of falls apart. So it's a little bit of a trial and error from there. So the key here is don't put too much water in at once, because you can't take the water out. The recipe that we gave you guys was for last year when we did 5,000 seedlings. We're realizing that this is way too much probably for what we need today. So you might have to cut the recipe a little bit, but at least you have the ratios.
How wet it has to be for the little seedlings. We're going to have to trial and error it. Might be a little wet. It sticks together nice.
It looks pretty decent. It was more wet than dry. We'll see as soon as we go.
Well, the nice thing is we could just add some of this in if it's a little bit wet still.
Try it again. Squeeze it. Yeah, that looks pretty decent.
So always good to have a bucket of water on hand, because if you want to get up close here, you can see how kind of muddy and goopy this gets. And then I find that it kind of gets stuck and it's hard to push the blocks out all the way. So in between doing them, you can always give it a little rinse there, and then it's ready to go. So kind of push it in both sides. And then I kind of scrape it along the bottom like that to try and even out the bottom. And then let's see how she did. Yay!
Very nice. The best tips I can give you from our experience from last year is really the consistency from water from how dry to how wet it is. Essentially, your mix is the number one key. So just play around with it as much as you can, because I'm assuming different material, like different soil, different compost might react a little bit differently. So that's your number one thing. And second, you really need to pack these soil blocks as much as possible. The 3/4 ones like this are far easier than the 2-inch and the 3-inch. So really going in there and working it out to really make sure that it's really packed and there's no pocket of air in there, it's going to be a huge key to make sure that that they come out really nice.
So I'm gonna do all of my herbs, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants in this one, and then I'm gonna do my flowers, my celery, my celeriac, my onions, my leeks in here.
And the tomatoes and all that will have the cover for the humidity level.
Yeah. I saw this cool trick online a while ago and I really love it. So you pour some of your seeds out on a little plate here, and then you dip a pencil in water so that the tip is wet, and then you super easily just touch the seed and it sticks to the pencil, and then you can easily just boop, put it in there.
My turn to get my hands dirty while Nat is sewing all the 3/4 blocks. It's not needed to do the 2 inches now, which are basically the next pot up to the 3/4 blocks, but since we already have the recipe, I'm gonna essentially punch out 4 trays like this for 200. Because they're a lot bigger, making sure you compact them really, really tight first is what really helps to make sure that when you punch them out, they actually look good. So even sometimes what I do is I pack it and I put it at the bottom and I punch them a little bit in there just to really compact them before I come here and I punch them out. So here we go.
They're beautiful.
All right, and that is what 200 2-inch soil blocks looks like.
What did we do today?
So all of the seedlings are
Planted.
all the seedlings are officially planted. We're looking out at the garden right now, and this is where all of this is going to end up going. So we've got all the seedlings in on the heating pads right now, and because this is a west-facing window, we also have we supplement sunlight with grow lamps, LED grow lamps over top of it to really help it.
They should all or mostly germinate in about 2 weeks, and then they'll be potted up to the 2-inch.
And the last thing too is what's the best way again to water these 3/4 blocks? You can't just pour water over top of blocks.
Yeah, so you have to pour water in areas where there isn't any blocks, so directly like on the plastic parts. And I might tilt it a little bit until like the water soaks in. It's trial or error also.
And you don't want to let these soil blocks dry out either, right? Because they'll dry out fast.
Yeah, so you have to make sure that they're constantly like a little bit moist.
All right, and if you want to see how we move them up to the next size, you're gonna have to stick around. So I'll see you in the next video.